Okay, guys, let's get into a quick story time really quick. So I had a client who was in the process of purchasing a home, and let's just say we didn't close. The lender actually filed or flagged the file as fraud. So I had no clue, okay? I had absolutely no clue. I believe my buyers, right? I didn't have any red flags to kind of go off anything, but let's just get into this story. So anyway, my client was purchasing a second home. It was actually their first investment property that they had ever bought, but it was going to be considered a second home because it was in a different location from them and they weren't going to live there as a primary resident. So they were buying a second home, and we kind of got all the way down to the wire. We were literally like 3 or 4 days before closing, and the lender was going through their verification process. So when you're buying a second home, if you rent a primary residence, that rental payment is counted against your debt. So we have to verify how much you're paying for rent, and typically they'll do that by gathering like a lease or a verification of mortgage form. And then they'll look at some other things on the back end to kind of make sure those things add up. Well, we got the lease, and the lease had a certain amount of money on it for the lease. And with that money, our debt to income would have worked. We then, or the lender actually called the landlord on the lease. And the landlord states that, hey, that's not the right amount. That's not what they pay. I didn't sign that. And so we're like, well, what is going on? So we called the lender actually called the realtor as well. And they all were like, no, that lease is inaccurate. Okay, red flag automatically, right? Just look at little red flags going across your file. So the lender's like, hold on a second, something's not right. And what I like to say is when there's one thing that's caught that was a lie, that lender is going to search and make sure they didn't look over something else. Now, this person had really good credit and, they're a W-2 employee, and it was kind of like a clean cut file, or at least we thought it was. So there were some other things that kind of came up on the file as well that had the lender questioning like, hey, what is this really valid over here? Just because one thing was off. So, long story short, we didn't close, obviously. The file was flagged fraud, and they canceled that loan. And as far as everything goes with me and the client, I have no proof like that lease was actually valid. Like the client said it was valid, the lender said it wasn't. And when I tried to kind of find out information or question, some of the things that the lender was questioning, I didn't get an answer. So I only can assume that the lease was probably not a valid lease. So just a note, like when you're purchasing a home, they're going to verify everything, even down to the wire. Like we were literally 3 days before closing doing our verification of employment, which we couldn't do. We could not get someone on the phone to verify the employment and do a verbal verification with an accurate number for the person that worked at the company. So when you work at a company, they're gonna Google that number or look that number up and make sure it's the actual number to the company. We couldn't get someone on the phone to validate that they were employed. And so that was like 2 red flags for this one particular loan, and they were denied. So just a note, if you are purchasing a home, they're going to validate everything. And if one thing comes up off, they're searching for what else did I miss doing this transaction. Anyway, if you like this information, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you next time.